All set. There we go. Welcome to the workshop, folks, for guitar making channel. We made it. We're back. Everything seems to be working smoothly. The internet, heaven permitting, is working. Let us know in the chat if everything's okay, because we did have some problems last week. Rescheduled for Saturday, by the way, in case you're not sure. Today we're going to be talking about probably the simplest kind of guitar neck that you could possibly make, which is a one-piece bolt-on neck with the Skunk Stripe in the back. So first of all, I'm going to quickly show you what one is. I'm going to show you how I go about laying out the drawing. So got a drawing here, which I'm going to take you through, and I'm going to show you what kind of blanks we use. I've got some different neck blanks here to show you, and most importantly today I will be showing you how to put the truss rod in from the back. So if you're not sure what a skunk stripe is, it's this stripe at the back. That's what we call a skunk stripe. There's several different ways to do it. I'm going to show you a few different ways today, and hopefully, fingers crossed, internet permitting, Huawei permitting, I'm going to actually install a truss rod into this here bit of wood. Now I've done a little bit of blue peter on it, a little bit of prep, but I'm going to talk you through that as well. So we did a little bit of work yesterday, so shout out to Lewis. Lewis is kind of my apprentice. He's a bit more than my apprentice, really. He kind of works with me now rather than for me. So I asked Lewis yesterday to do a few jobs for me in preparation for today. So I took pictures all the way through, and we've got a little slideshow of what we did in preparation for today. So I'm going to show you that as well. Then I'm going to actually route the slot and drill the holes. So this kind of truss rod routes from the back, and there's a slot, and then we have to drill from the front to match up, basically. So I'm going to take you through all that. Don't worry, I'm going to go through all this a lot slower in a minute, and I'm going to actually do it in real time for you. So we've got some jigs and stuff made up. I'm going to show you exactly how we did that. First of all, starting with the drawing. I'm not going to actually glue it in today because for reasons which I will explain later. And we've also got some other news coming up. Just briefly tell you, we've got maple back in stock in the shop, and we've got a new section on the shop. Let me see if I can find it for you. New section on the shop. So on sale. So what this is it's basically, over the years we've been running courses and we do lots of custom builds and stuff, and it's stuff that we've ordered in either by mistake or the person's changed their mind, and it never got sent back for one reason or another. What we're doing is we're offering it to you guys at a super discounted price, trying to raise some money so that I need a new pair of socks and Carol needs a new bag of lentils. So so yeah, check out the on sale tab in the shop, and there's some amazing bargains in there, and we're going to whack in a load of other stuff as well over the coming days and weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, just before we get into it as well, the music that you heard at the start, those beautiful scenic shots and everything, that was a place called Terra Vecchia in Italy, where I was asked to go and build a guitar at a festival. The instrument that was playing is a bouzouki, played by John Duffy, made by me. Beautiful instrument and awesome player, made right here in the Bailey workshop. What are you trying to say, Carol?
We swapped it for the floor.
Oh yeah. Well, Duffy's a builder, so apart from being a fantastic player. So Duffy actually, the very floor that I'm walking on was built by Duffy in exchange for his bouzouki. He did a lot of work for us. in the workshop. So cheers Duffy, cheers for that. And while the logo was coming up, that was a guy called Mark Wynn. If you want to check him out, completely bonkers, genius, what can I say? I'll play you a few more tunes. He came for a recording session once, and I managed to get some. He just comes up with songs completely off the cuff, makes songs up on the spot, and he did 3 about Bailey guitars, including that instrumental that you just heard. So we'll play you them at some point, but right now, maybe we'll do that in the 5,000 subscriber special that's coming up.
Can you explain how question works? We've got a new guy here, Like a Kite is new today, and can you explain how we work for our questions?
Brilliant. So welcome to all our regulars, and if you're new here and you've got a question that you would like answered, just leave it in the chat and Carol will read it out. We might even see if we can get it to come up on the screen at some point. So Carol's going to have a go at that, as if she hasn't got enough to do over there. So yeah, if you've got any questions, leave them in the chat. And if you're new here and you're not subscribed, then make sure you don't miss any of our upcoming videos by being subscribed. If guitar making is the sort of thing you're interested in, then you don't want to miss any of that. And like and share, it really helps us. You don't understand, guys, how much it helps us. So thanks a lot. Right, that's all that stuff out of the way. Let's get right on and do it.
So we've had one question already.
All right, let's do the question.
So the question is from Like a Kite. He said, does it matter if the maple is not quarter sawn?
Fantastic question, as always. I'm so proud of you guys. You come up with the best questions. No is the answer. You'll find that in every book it will tell you to make sure that your neck wood is quarter sawn. But in the real world, most of these kind of bolt-on necks, like your Fender style neck, I bet if you look at the end, I bet it's not quarter sawn. If you don't know what quarter sawn is, by the way, that's where the grain is vertical this way. Most of these kind of necks are actually slab cut, where the grain is usually this way, or it can be in a completely random direction. Maple is one of the most stable, solid woods that we use as guitars makers, and so it doesn't really matter. I would say it would be better if it's quarter sawn, but it's not really available. You can't really go and buy a plank of quarter sawn maple. If you walk into a wood yard and ask for that, they'll just laugh in your face. Ask me how I know. But they will let you go through the pile. And if you've got the patience to pick out the one in the middle that's quarter sawn. Have you guys seen a film called The Plank? I revisited that a couple of weeks ago. An old film called The Plank, where they try and get the plank right out in the middle of... Anyway, I digress. Yes, it's nice to have quarter sawn, but not essential, is the answer to that. So yes, this is a normal bolt-on neck that we make, and the truss rod comes out the end there. No skunk stripe, because the truss rod goes in from the top, and the fretboard, not this one but one like it, will be glued down on top, you see, and that hides the truss rod. Perfect. So that's a lot easier to do than what I'm about to show you. What I'm about to show you is a little bit tricky, because you've got this step to deal with. What we're going to do is route a slot in the back of the neck, and this slot's going to be curved this way, actually, curved this way. I'm going to explain all that in a minute. And then we have to drill this, the horror hole through from there to join up with that. So that's the postman. Cheers for that.
James Perry's in the house, by the way.
Hi, James. Yep.
He's so excited.
Yes, I forgot to mention as well. So this is from a request from one of our salubrious members on the website. If you want to become a premium member, then head over to the website and you get access to all my premium courses, which are edited, not like this long waffly live stream where I talk about things I'm not supposed to talk about. So on the edited courses, it's all very succinct, concise and edited, and you see everything from every angle, start to finish. That's electrics and acoustics. Obviously you have to pay to be a premium member to watch those. There's also free stuff. You can just join and become a free member and get all the patterns and plans and stuff for free. And you can become a supporter if you want to support us. We appreciate all that, so thank you very much. Now that's that spiel over with, let's get on with it. So a one-piece bolt-on neck is a little bit more tricky, but I think this is the genius of Leonardo Defender. Leonardo Defender came up with this amazing neck where you can make it just from a 1-inch neck blank. So hopefully that's explained the difference between our normal neck and a skunk stripe. So that's the skunk stripe bit. The truss rod's going in from the back. Let's talk about neck blanks then.
Can I make a couple of comments, Mark?
Yeah, go on then.
So we've got all sorts of people in the house today. But somebody's mentioned that Saturday was a short edit.
Yeah, apologies for Saturday. We've rescheduled for this coming Saturday at 1 PM. We'll start again like it never happened. Because it's supposed to be part of a series, see, so it was important. I want to start again and make sure we get everything in.
And you started something with the plank because James Bissett in Coleman now, he's got the plank on DVD. And Clint in Hawaii says he used to watch it. He's watched it when he was a kid. It's silly slapstick, it's out of date, isn't it? And
yeah, a lot better than I remembered it anyway. So yeah, after this you can all go and watch the plank. So my normal bolt-on necks are 21mm thick, and then by the time you've added your 6mm fretboard, it comes out about 27mm. So the thickness of a neck is about 27mm. And a one-piece neck.
Show that again.
Oh, sorry, the camera wasn't on.
No.
So this is a thin neck, 21mm, 21mm, and with the fretboard on, it becomes 27mm. And a one-piece neck then would start off at 27mm. So I would take that down to 27mm, and that's what I start with. 27mm. For a one-piece neck, 21mm for a normal bolt-on neck. Now if I'm making a scarf neck, I actually make it a bit thinner, so these are 20mm thick. The reason for that is on a bolt-on neck you've got this headstock angle, so you need a little bit extra thickness. It's only 1mm, but 1mm makes all the difference in this case. Incidentally as well, I wanted to mention that this style of truss rod I'm about to put in, it doesn't work with a scarf neck. I suppose you could do it in a scarf neck, I just never have. But it would be a lot trickier to drill the hole from there, as you'll see why in a minute. So I'm going to go through this drawing and show you this drawing now, exactly how this came about. I think what I'll do is I'll show you, I'm going to use the handheld cam. I'm going to use the handheld cam and take them through the drawing with that. Right, so as I said, this slot is curved. Let's try that. You can see the drawing there. Four. As you can see, the slot is curved. This is one of the few times where I'll do a side drawing of the neck. So what I've got here is a side drawing. So it's like the neck this way, sitting like that. Okay. And as you can see, the truss rod is curved. So it's anchored at this end with I'm just going to drill a hole and anchor the end like that. Now I did cut that off a little bit short. It would have been better if I'd left another couple of mil, but it'll be fine. It'll be just fine. Right? And I'm making sure you can see that it's not too, it's about 3 to 4 mil from the edge of the neck there. I'm going to take you through all this in a minute. So it's not too close to the edge of the neck, at the back there, and also at the top here. Don't worry, I'm going to explain all this in detail in a minute. Now my slot actually finishes there. So the slot is going to come in from the back of the neck, and then I'm going to drill through here for a big hole for the nut and then a small hole for the thread.
Got a couple of questions.
Okay, I think I might just redo this drawing and take you through how I did it. It might be the best thing to do.
We've got a couple of good questions, Mark.
Go on then.
Right, so hold on, let me just get back to you. So Rock and Roller 912 says, why is it curved?
Okay, so go back to 4 please, Carol. So here, if you imagine we drill a big hole for this nut and then a small hole that the bar passes through into the slot. So if we tighten this can't go into the hole, so it pulls the truss rod this way. Here it's anchored at the back, so it can't come this way. Because it's curved, what it does is it tries to straighten out. And obviously what that will do in turn is bend the neck. So I guess I should explain, the truss rod is there because when you put strings on, the neck is going to bend. The neck bends, obviously it bends this way. Don't know if you can see that. The neck bends this way like that, as if you're pressing down in the middle and pulling up on the end. Obviously the strings are bending the neck like this. So the truss rod is to bend it back, as if you're pushing up in the middle and down on the ends. That's to straighten it out again. So that's what the truss rod's for. And if you put it in pre-curved and it tries to straighten it out, then basically it's going to have that same effect on the neck. You can in fact put the truss rod in straight, believe it or not. This is the old style, compression style. When you put the strings on, the neck bends, and then purely by compression, the neck will try and straighten out. But that's not a very good, it's an old-fashioned style. It's a lot more responsive if you put a bend in the actual slot. So machining a curved slot is a bit tricky. So that's why we've made these rails, curved rails. I'm going to show you exactly how we did that. Try not to waffle too much. So I'll quickly take you through this drawing, and then I'm going to show you the slideshow of how I made the rails, okay?
Before you do that, so Rock and Roller said, does this curve build a backbone in the neck?
No.
Right.
No, the curve doesn't bend the neck at all. Obviously, you're just machining a curved slot. Okay. This will all become a lot clearer as we do it. I think this will all become a lot clearer as we actually do it. So if you just let me get on with it for a bit, maybe it'll answer all your questions. I haven't even started yet.
I know, but
so
one more question about...
We'll do one more question, right? And then I'm going to get on with it. And then we'll have some more questions when I've actually done something. Because there's going to be lots of points where they're going to have questions.
Yes, but is that a single action truss rod? That's the question.
Yes, this is a one-way truss rod. Obviously, it can only bend the neck one way. We're actually, we're relying on the neck, we're relying on the strings to bend the neck this way. And then we're using the truss rod to straighten it back up. Hopefully that makes sense. So you can, you've probably heard of building back bow into a guitar. You probably don't want to do that because there's no way of straightening it out. Really what you want in a neck is you want a bit of relief. So you want a gap in the middle when you put a ruler on. Ideally something like that. You can see that hopefully. So the ruler's touching at the end and there's a tiny, tiny gap in the middle. That's ideal. When you put the strings on, that gap will get a bit bigger, but the truss rod will be able to straighten it out. And we would just, basically you would adjust the truss rod until you've got the smallest gap possible with no rocks. That's the short version of how to set the truss rod. Okay, and make sure it's in tune, retune, and check again. Check twice, cut once.
I need to say one more thing, sorry.
Go on then.
Super Clint says 6mm fretboard because of a Fender 9-inch radius, question mark. So is that why?
Well, 6mm is just the standard thickness of our fretboards. Yeah, you might find some Fenders have got very, very thin fretboards. But really the point of this is that you don't even need a fretboard. Look, no fretboard. No fretboard. Look, Mum, no fretboard. So, right, can I actually do something now?
Yes.
So, keep your questions coming, because we'll pause and we can answer your questions in the pauses. But as I go, I'll probably answer a lot of them anyway. So, yeah, that's actually not a bad shot of the drawing. I might go with that.
You want to stay there, do you?
Yeah, I'm going to stay there. Let's take this off to start with, and I'll show you exactly. Can't see my hammer anywhere, can you?
What?
I was going to pull these pins out. Hammer. No, I need an actual metal hammer, that'll do. I've used these pins to bend the metal, but I want to show you how I came to that. So let's just pull those out and start again. So I started with a 27mm box, basically. So you could just draw around your piece of wood. 27mm box. And then at this end, we know it's going to be thinned down for the headstock. So what I'm doing today is kind of like it's a bit of an advanced video, this one, for people. I'm going to assume that you already know a lot of stuff, like thickness in the headstock. I'm going to show you, this is part of the slideshow, which I'll show you in a minute, but basically the headstock needs to be taken down to the correct thickness. That's called thicknessing. In this case, it's going to be 15mm thick, okay? And then here's where my nut is, and I've marked that out just using my patterns, or you could just use another neck just to mark out the nut position. And also the ends of the neck I've marked as well. Okay. So 27mm thick, 15mm thick at the headstock. Mark the nut position and the end of the neck, because you need to add 3/16 past the nut to where it curves down. That's about 4.5mm. That just gives you a little bit of meat for sanding. Now, if you're not sure how we would carve this down, there's an amazing little technique that we do for that, but that's for another day. If you want to know how to do that, you'll have to go and look at the bolt-on course, which is on the website, and it shows you how a little amazing method for cutting that, which I still find amazing even now. So I've marked the thickness of the neck here. Oh, why is there never a pencil when you need one? Thank you. So the neck from roughly about level with the nut, the neck's going to come up to thickness here, and obviously this depends on your neck, but I go for 21mm. So I'm measuring down from the top of the piece of wood. It's going to be 21mm, and then 23mm down this end. Down this end. So I've marked on, that's at the first fret 21mm, about the 12th fret 23mm, and that allows me to mark on the taper of the neck. So the neck's 2mm thinner there than it is there. You guys all know this anyway, don't you? That's standard. I wouldn't normally go to this extent, like I say, of drawing out the side profile. You don't normally need it. But in this case, it's really important because, as I showed you earlier, there's only 1/8 of an inch space at the top and 1/8 of an inch space at the back of meat left on your neck. You don't want to be, when you're carving your neck, you don't want to be carving into your truss rod, obviously. So this bit's going to be removed eventually when we carve our neck. Okay, so we've marked on headstock thickness and the side of the neck profile. Now I'll show you how we make the mark on the truss rod. So if we just go to camera 1, I'll show you the actual truss rod. I started with a piece of 5mm metal bar. This could be, I'll show you on the close-up cam. This could be 6mm. It depends on your nut, you see, because I've got these nuts that I use, and it's a 5mm thread. So you can also, these also come with a 6mm thread, or I guess if you're in the US, you might get 1/4 inch thread and 1/4 inch bar. Yeah, I wouldn't use 4mm. 4mm is probably a bit too puny for this. You'd want 5mm or 6mm. This is one of those cases where 6mm might be a good one, but we use 5mm. 5mm is perfectly adequate. So here's a piece of 5mm bar. I've just put about 20mm or 3/4 inch of thread on the end. It's a 5mm thread. Actually, Lewis did that for us yesterday. Cheers, Lewis. Top job. So we want to wind it on about 3 threads. You've usually got about 12 threads on these, by the way. So we wind it on about 3 to give it a good bite, and then I'll show you on the drawing how I lay that out. So as you saw, it's got to be, you need to have it not too close to the top here, look. If this hole gets too close to the top here, then this piece can easily break off, which is not good, obviously. So if I just put that there exactly where I want it to be, so I've put it on there, and I'm just making sure I've got a good solid piece of wood at the top. Hopefully you can see that. And then we can put a nail in. Just there to hold it. So then it's a case of working out the rest of the bend by just holding it like this, and you can just make sure that, again, you've got the 1/8 of an inch there. And what I did was I just measured 18 inches. I measured 16 inches, I think, and then 8 inches to get the centre. And this time we put the pin on the other side, so the truss rod is now being bent around the pins, and we just line it up until we've got the bend that we want. See, and this is how we actually get the bend. So this is a piece of round bar. Actually, to get a proper bend on it, it's better to use a piece of square bar, because when you're marking this, your pencil might tip up. Your pencil might tip up and go underneath. So just make sure you keep your pencil straight when you're marking it. So line it up like that. and then that's how you get your curve. So you can just draw that on with a pencil. That's what I did. Now actually the slot is going to go to this side of the bar. Hopefully that makes sense. The slot goes to this side of the bar because it's going in from the back. So I'm going to draw it on this side. Okay. And then you just draw around it, and at this end, back at the anchoring end, I just drew on the little hook at the end there. Now the actual length of it, I've just put it roughly in the middle of the heel there. So the exact length doesn't matter as long as it's in the chunky part of the neck. It could go a bit further along, or it could just be a bit shorter, as long as it goes into this chunky part of the neck. And I just went it right into the middle. So this would work. This layout technique would work for basically any neck. I know that, so part of the reason I'm doing this was for James. James asked, he's actually making a bass.
So he's asked about that.
Yeah, you're actually making a bass guitar, but it's exactly the same.
So he said, So he said, is the truss rod the same diameter for a bass, or is it chunkier? And if it's the same, there's more room for error, right?
You could make it a little bit thicker. I would maybe go for 28mm for a bass, but everything else will be the same. To be honest, what I would do is I would draw it out, draw a side profile, and then I would decide how thick it needs to be, because you might want to go to the extent of actually drawing your string on to make sure that you've got some break angle. Now, break angle is a complicated thing, especially with a bolt-on neck, because there isn't really any break angle. You've got what I call a parallel headstock. I call this a parallel headstock, as opposed to an angled back headstock, which gives you a proper break angle. When I say break angle, I mean the string needs to be held down firmly in the nut, otherwise it'll just bounce. So on a parallel headstock, you usually get some kind of string retainer to hold the thing down. But if you're making something that you haven't made before, sometimes you might even go to the extent of actually drawing the strings on, just to make sure you've got some kind of angle. You might want to decide to use string retainers. They hold the strings down or not. You probably will need them, by the way. Let me just finish this and we'll have some more questions. So this works with anything, as long as it's a one-piece bolt-on neck. So that's how I got my curve. Hopefully that makes some kind of sense. So the actual slot, I've lost my pencil again, can you believe it? The slot is going to finish here. Here's my slot. And what we'll do is we'll just get a drill and we'll drill this hole just with an ordinary hand drill later. Oops, wrong camera, Carol. So the slot goes down to here. And then we're just going to drill this hole just by hand later. It's a little 5mm hole because it's a 5mm bar. Again, yours might be 6mm or whatever. So the slot goes to here, and on this end, what we're going to do is we're going to drill this. In this case, mine is 3/8 of an inch or 9mm. This is. So I'm going to drill a 9mm hole down to here, and my truss rod slot comes to here. So that leaves, if you can see that, that leaves a good 3/4 of an inch to an inch of meat. If this isn't enough, if this is too small, what you'll find is your nut can start working its way into the slot, and then your truss rod won't work very well. You don't want your truss rod nut working its way into the slot. So I've left a good 3/4 of an inch or an inch between the end of the nut there and the truss rod slot. So here's the end of my truss rod slot. And with all that marked out, let me just, maybe if I just colour that in a bit. Here's my actual slot. So you can see that curve with a bit of luck. Hopefully you can see that curve there. Doesn't look very curved, does it? Bloody camera lenses.
Is it better on the overhead?
Get the idea anyway. So the way I transferred that to the piece of wood, I'll probably show you in a minute. We're going to show you the slideshow, but before we do that, if you get the slideshow queued up, Carol, I'm going to show you the blank that Lewis did a few jobs on yesterday. So all we've done is draw on the profile. So where's my pattern? Well, I got everything ready and then lost everything again. This is what happens. That's what editing's for, eh? Can't find it. Here it is. Okay, so I put my pattern on my piece of wood and I drew round it. Drew a centre line on. Centre line's vitally important in this case. And we drilled the tuner holes from the back. So I stuck that on with our double-sided tape. By the way, this is our double-sided tape, NEC tape, available from the website. If you go to guitarmaking.co.uk, this is exhibition tape, the best double-sided tape you can get. We stuck that on with there and then used it as a drilling guide to drill the holes. And then we thicknessed the headstock. So you end up with nice, perfectly clean holes on the front. That's why we did it in that order. Now I need to thickness the headstock first, in this case, because we need this little step here, you see. We need a step to get a drill on. At some point we're going to have to go with a drill in there. That'll be fun, won't it? You'll enjoy that bit, James. So you need a step. That's why doing this on a scarf neck is not really feasible. I suppose it can be done, but getting the drill started in the right place on there might be tricky. It could be done. You could build a drilling guide, I suppose. A drilling guide would be one option for that. So that was our Blue Peter jobby. All we've done is drawn the outline on, drilled the tuner holes, and then thicknessed the headstock. So we could, in fact, cut out the profile. I want to show you cutting out the profile method. This is what I used to do. The more observant of you, when I was showing you this earlier, might have noticed I used to use a different way to anchor the truss rod at this end. We used to put a threaded bar into this cross piece here, and then we would peen the end over so that the threaded bar couldn't come out, thus anchoring the end. So that's one option, but making this little cross shape isn't so easy. So what I did was I made these patterns. This will probably make more sense in a minute after you've seen how we make the rails. So you can use that as and use the copy routing technique. The disadvantage of this is that you've lost 18 mil of depth on your router because of the thickness of the pattern. It's holding the router 18 mil further away from the wood than it would otherwise be if you just use the rails. So it limits the depth you can go to. To use these, I had to search out and find and buy super long cutters. You can see the curve on it. I had to get super long cutters, which were long enough to follow this. So the shank guided along there, and then the cutter did the cutting into the back of the neck. and it was anchored on these location pins. So I drilled location pins into the back of the neck, and the neck's fitted in like this, and then we routed from this side. So you could go to that extent if you wanted, but what I'm going to show you today is a bit of a simpler way to do it, just using the rails on their own. Okay, so Carol, if you've got the film ready, hopefully
So we're going to show the film.
yeah, I'm going to do that, and then you can play the film, and I'm going to talk you through.
Okay, hopefully this will work.
You tried this. Didn't work. 'Cause that- Right, that's the comment. Tap to put the eye off, Carol. No. Yeah. Um, Oh, I'm back on.
Mitch's World Travel on another super.
Oh,
Thank you
Mitch.
so much, and it's
Mitch.
just for you. Oh,
Oh, I'm embarrassed
you.
now. Do you know you doubled our YouTube income last month? Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Right. Is there a lag?
For anyone else who doesn't know,
is everybody back? Here?
hopefully everybody's back, yeah. There's a super chat button below the chat, by the way, just so you know, if you want to support us. I need a new pair of socks. Carol needs some lentils. So yeah, if you hit the play button, then it'll play through the little slideshow. So I've given you the little talk through the drawing, so hopefully you'll understand. Carol, you play it for us.
Right.
Hopefully you'll understand most of this. We might have to stop and start
Right,
it.
this is the first one.
There's
Oh,
it's not working. Push. So then we to the wood. A mahogany neck blank is what I used as a piece of scrap. Hopefully the computer will hold together while this plays. Is it playing, Carol?
I'll put it on.
So we just paused it there. So what you saw, I'll just talk you through it again quickly. I started with, I was going to talk you through it, but for some reason the computer's melting every time we do that. So I started with a big chunk of wood. Actually, asked Lewis actually to do this. He made a slot down one side of it. That's what you saw. Made a slot. Then we cut it off, and then we cut the curve. So I spent a little bit of time with sandpaper and a plane, just making that curve as perfect as possible, because I had a line drawn on that I was working to. You can see that?
Down a bit.
Yeah, I was working to this line. Ignore the other line. And then we cut them in half. You saw this on the end looked all a bit raggedy. So where it comes through, the curve comes through the slot you see here. You need to make sure if you're making one of these that you leave sort of a couple of mil here, at least a couple of mil, because that's got to be above the wood there, so it fits on like that. So when I was marking it out, I made sure that when I was marking the curve, that I marked the slot, and then I added a couple of mil at this point here, and then I transferred, banged my nails in, bent my bar over, draw it on, and cut it. I could have just traced that curve, I suppose. Could have traced it, but I used the bar again and the nails. So this piece here where it comes through is very thin. It's kind of like it just kind of like wants to break off. But what I did was I marked again. I marked the end of my truss rod onto my pieces of wood here. You can see that I just transferred this line there, and then the same descent. I made a mark on my piece of wood. That's the length of my truss rod. And then I just cut this piece out. So there was a sort of like an untidy, raggedy looking bit there, which I just cut out. And then what I discovered when I came to put it on was the lump on the end here also needed to be cut off. So you'll see that in a minute in the last bits of the slideshow. So I don't know why we can't get the audio one, but we'll work on that. We'll show you the rest of the slideshow, then I'm going to come back. We'll do some more questions if you've got any questions. I'm going to actually attempt on the internet to actually put this here. Wood. A few times. I know. Play the first play from where never mind. Let's see if it'll sort itself. So we thought we were living in the future and that technology had caught up with us, but we're still working on it. Let us know if everything's still working all right. Hopefully you understood most of that slideshow, even though I couldn't explain it yet as it was going like I intended. That's the beauty of live stream, isn't it? If you want the professional versions of the videos, you've got to go sign up as a premium member, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. Hopefully we're back in the room and everything's good. Yeah, so I was just explaining there's a couple of untidy bits at the end that needed trimming so that it fitted on. And you saw me marking the ends of the truss rod. So if I stick them on there like that, marked under the truss rod here and on this end as well, then we should be able to just route a slot between there and there, easy peasy, and it'll come out curved because of these curved things. So we call them the guide rails. So as I was saying earlier, you could cut your shape out and your guide rails could sit on there. You might have to modify these bits again to make it fit. Chop these off shorter.
Oh, Mitch's World has sent you over $70.
Lordy law, Mitch.
It's Australian.
Right, that's enough now. I'm going to have words with you in a minute. Thank you so much. So, yeah, cheers for that. We'll do a little dance. Woo-hoo-hoo! Oh, I'll do it again. Yay! So, yeah, you could, like I say, you could use that and do that. You could also, as I say, make the pattern. What I used to do was make a template neck, and I used to glue this onto my template all around the neck, and so then I'd make sure it would fit in next time, you see. Hopefully that made some kind of sense. I don't go to this extent anymore. I wanted to come up with another idea of doing the anchor at this end, and so this is what I'm going to recommend as the simplest possible way to do it. But I wanted to show you some other ways as well. So that's that. So to make this style of truss rod, you're going to need your nut and your 5mm bar, and that's all you'll need. Or your 6mm bar. Just make sure that your nut fits into the thread, depending on what you can get. So let's get all this out of the way, and I'm going to actually make some mess now.
Mark, Bill Flood says, can he pay to stop the dancing?
Yeah, of course you can. Super chat. Please stop dancing.
I've got. When are you going to take questions, Mark?
This up. I'm going to do double-sided tape on here, and I'm going to stick this on there with double-sided tape, one each side like that.
Right. So can we just? There's a few. Shall I rattle through them, and you can say no, you can answer them.
Go on then.
If you want. Okay. So James earlier he was asking if you needed a fatter truss rod, a bigger diameter truss rod, not the neck. So do you need, sorry, for a base, do you need a diameter truss rod?
You don't need one. A 5mm bar would be fine, but you could use a 6mm one.
Okay, and Denver Lange asked, do we use stainless steel? I said no, but is it cold steel? What do we use? Pressed steel? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's just mild steel. It's just bog standard ordinary steel.
Okay.
Nothing special about it.
TV 101 said, how do you get the bends accurate if you make the truss rods yourself? How do you get the bends accurate?
So that's a good point, actually. The truss rod will be pre-bent. The truss rod will be pre-bent before it's installed. So obviously your rod will come straight like this, and you've got to bend it. How would you bend it accurately? with a bit of practice and patience, if you stick it on a bench like this, I'll just gently press along. And I keep doing that, and I'll check it on top of my my actual pattern there until it matches. It doesn't have to be exact. Look, I'm just showing off now. I just did that by hand. You could, if you wanted, make up a jig which has a bend on it, but what you would have to do is exaggerate the bend. You'd maybe drill a hole in the end, and then you could hook it in and just press it onto your form. But there's always a bit of spring back, so you'd have to have like an exaggerated bend, and you'd have to do a bit of trial and error to make sure it was bending the same as your actual desired curve that you're looking for. Just a bit of trial and error, you'd be able to do that. And that's what we had in the factory, was kind of a form for bending them all, and they would bend the same. But like I say, it has to be a bigger curve because there's a bit of spring back. In this case, I just did it by hand. So let's stick these on.
Okay.
Like I say, I've marked on, just so that you can see, I've marked on the ends of the truss rod here. Oops.
Ooh.
I've marked on the end of the slot here and here, just to be safe.
Okay.
And I'm going to stick my rails on now.
Mitch's World Travel didn't ask a question, and I said he ought to, but he's just thought one. He said, why bend the truss rod? Why bend it? It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, it's, as I explained, I did explain this earlier.
I think he wasn't there at the beginning.
Oh yeah, you have to peel off the back of the tape to make it stick. Remember that? Double-sided tape. I failed the test. What was the question again? Why is the truss rod bent?
Yeah.
Yes, it's because when you add the tension, it tries to straighten out, thus imparting a bend into the neck. I did explain this earlier, so I think I did it quite well. If you rewind a bit, you'll probably get a better explanation rather than the second version, which won't be as bad. But the short version is, it tries to pull itself straight, and as it does, it actually bends the neck. Hopefully that makes sense. So we pre-bend the truss rod. There are different designs of truss rod. Some of them, like the simpler ones I showed you earlier on, they just fit into a straight slot. That obviously makes it a lot easier to fit. Thanks, Simon.
Or non-compression.
No, you kind of, you make choices along the way, limit your options. Well, I'm sure not on my radar. I don't know about it. You use like design. To be honest, Trevor will use a one-way truss rod, because if you build the plate, you need to bend the way.
Like the sound's going in and out.
Two-way truss is
Sound is breaking up.
two-way truss rod is not essential.
Sound is breaking up. It says. Is that you?
Well, it's the internet. There's nothing I can do about it.
Well, I wondered if it's right.
Okay, so let's talk about tools that you're going to need then. We're going to need a router and a cutter, and we're going to need some drills. In my case, I'm using, we need long drills, long form drills. So auger bits are the cheapest way to get a long drill. So this is a 5mm and a 3/8 mil that I'm using. Obviously it depends on your bits and bobs. You might need a 6mm and a 10mm, depending on your nut.
It sounds like you've got a bad mic cord. Have you unplugged yourself or something?
Hang on.
Hold on a minute. Is it wrong?
Try that. We'll see if that's any better. So you need 2 drills and you need a cutter. Any 1/4 inch cutter will do. I'm going to use my round bottom cutter. Acoustics, but it doesn't need to be a round bottom. It could be just a square bottom, but I've got it, so why not? If you've got it, flaunt it. Innit? Just saying.
Right, it's cutting in and out all the time.
Oh no! No!
Mike says you can hear your chest hair growing.
Well, have you missed so far? Or have you managed to understand everything so far?
I think it's just in and out.
I don't know. No reason except for the internet. I need to actually do some work, so the sound's not going to matter for this because you won't hear what I'm saying anyway. I'm going to outer up so that when you bump start and the measure to know the depth.
Oh.
So it's about 19 or 20 mil we want to go. 19 or 20. Some kind of sense. This is the back of the neck at the moment. When it's carved, it's going to be here. But at the moment, it's here. But our slot needs to be this deep, which is 20 mil deep, 19 or 20 mil deep. So you can see why it's a really deep slot. Can be quite key.
Right. You've got loads of noise. They're saying they can't hear you.
Why has that suddenly started then?
It's rustle. You've got lots of rustling noise.
It sounds really bad on there, it always does. Ignore that.
Well, they're saying you're breaking up. They're saying you've got lots of... Oh! No, it keeps breaking up.
Right, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to switch audio. Bear with me, folks.
Such a shame. I'm not going to let it break us.
Have to make a bit of space.
Switch.
Audio. Yeah, I think we're on.
Nothing on.
But we've only got
They can see.
we've only got it from one channel now. what I've got to do is go.
They're saying it's like Norman, whatever. Look. We've got
The plank.
the
Nothing's working. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Right, we're back in the room.
Yeah, we've got both channels.
Mike says, can you mine?
Right, I think we're okay now. Just turn that.
Right. I can't see anything on the...
Okay, guys.
Hello?
Hopefully you can hear me again.
Should there be a green thing on the programme?
Yeah.
Oh, there's one in here. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, we're using a different microphone and hopefully that'll work. Will you just let us know before I carry on?
Right.
So I've stuck my things on. Now I'm just going to set up a few what we call butt stops. Not those kind of butt stops. So a couple of clamps.
Looks like we've got some fingers up.
Yeah. Is that good?
Yeah. Mike Press says, we like it when Mark drops or breaks things, but we prefer to hear what he says. Fixed. Right, they're all saying it's fixed. Yay. Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Yay, because we're not yet.
We are not giving up on this one.
We're not giving up. Not this one. Right, so what camera are you on?
Right, so did you get that, guys, how I got the depth? I measured it from my drawing. It's about 20 mil deep. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to set my depth here using the router. So let me just set my router up. I'm going to use this one here. With my round bottom cutter. So this is where it could all go. Pear-shaped, as if it hasn't gone pear-shaped enough already. Now if it does go pear-shaped, hopefully at least you'll have kind of understood the principles. And what I would recommend is that you always practice on scrap first until you're confident. I'm going to use the old fence guide here against the side of the wood as a guide. So this is going to guide against the side of the guide rails there. Looks like I'll have to move that clamp. I'll have a little dry run. So we want it to stop and start, if you can see in there.
You might need to move the wire.
Put the close-up lens on and a bit more light maybe. We want it to stop and start on that line there. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to clamp a block in here. I'm going to clamp a block in to stop us in the right place. Here's just the closest bit of scrap wood that I've got. Take this off, put that on, and there's my bump stop. You might notice I've just put a bit of wood under there because it's not actually thick enough. Because I've cut my headstock to thickness, I've got a gap under here, and so I need something just to prop it up. Could do with something just a little bit thicker than that. I think I'll just put a bit of veneer under there. That'll do it. Yes, of course, whenever you're doing any kind of health and safety, whenever you're doing any kind of routing, your health and safety is vitally important. So I'm going to make sure that I'm masked up. And there's my bump stop, stopping me in the right place. I can do the same at this end.
I'm on overhead now.
So I can just about get the clamp on there. Right, it's not really working at this end. I'm going to need, let me just show you. What I'm going to do this end is put a piece of wood across, piece of scrap wood across there, like that. Can you see that?
On overhead first, now I'm close up.
So this piece of wood in there, and then I can clamp that. And I'm going to adjust it until, so here's the end of my slot that I'm looking for. And there's my cutter going to there. So I can't go too far. Actually I can, because there's a gap there, look. Fix that. So that's my bump stop. Bump stop. Bump stop. Now I'm going to actually do the same this end, because seems to be coming unstuck a bit, so let's move that the other way around. I'll get along a bit on there.
Do you want a question?
A question. Go on then.
Well, Superclunk Clint in Hawaii says, it seems more troublesome with bent truss rods. Is it because it is more cost effective in terms of mass producing?
Yeah, so the only reason really to do this is to save money. You don't have to buy a truss rod. No separate piece of wood to buy. So that is the genius of Leonardo Defender, if you ask me. Oops. That is the genius, is that he managed to work out a way to make a neck cheaper than everybody else. Right, there we go. Now all I have to do is make sure the router's going down the centre line. So on my router I've got a little mark on the bottom of the router base, which I'm going to line up with the centre line. And I'll do a tiny little test cut just to make sure it's in the middle. I'm going to be using some extraction. So I've got this Hoover here, so I'm going to put in. Yeah.
Sorry, I changed it exactly when I...
And I'm going to do a little test run up and down. So let's just set it on the centre.
What came before? Okay.
Yeah, I need to work now, so you're on the cameras.
Okay. One with four is your arms, or you're going to be behind it.
That doesn't look too far away, but I'm going to do a test cut just to make sure. Oh, I've just realised one thing is that when I marked this is one thing you've got to check as well. When I marked this centre line on my neck, I marked it from this side, which means that really I want to be routing using this side as a guide. So I'm going to turn it round. Nothing's ever easy, is it, folks? If 50-50 chance. If I'm careful, I should be able to just turn it round. Everything else stays the same. Don't I make it look easy? That was for you, Darren. Now I've got to check that again and reset the centre line. Yeah, so make sure you're going along the same centre where you marked the line. Wow, do you think this could be a two-parter? How much time are we up to?
Well, it's 2:20 and you've still got...
Yeah, we've hardly started, see?
Oh, really?
Well, I've only just started actually doing work, haven't I? I've only just started, Carol. Now my router's catching on that clamp, so I've got a
You could make it
bit of shufty.
Although
James won't be happy. We'll see how it goes. We had a few delays, didn't we, and a few cock-ups. Let's see if I can set that exactly on centre. I'm going to do a little test as well, make sure everything's tight. And if you remember, I'm going to set the depth at 20mm, and it's at this end where we measured it.
So like a kite says, it's all worth it because skunk stripes look great.
Well, yeah. Obviously, this is just one way to do it. It's not necessarily the best, or it's definitely not the easiest. It's just one way to do it. So don't think that I'm saying this is the best way. It's just one way to do it. It's certainly the cheapest way to build a guitar. Right, so this is the scary bit then, folks. I'm going to set that to 20mm. I'll have to bring it round here to show you how I do that. So what I've done is I took the router down to touch the wood. Like this. Router's touching wood. Lock it. And then I'm going to bring my depth stop down. Obviously yours might be different to this, but I need to dial in 0. I need to tell the router that this is 0. And then I'm going to dial in 20mm.
So they're all saying check twice, cut once, right?
Yeah, check twice, cut once, at least. Sometimes even 3 times. You know, when I'm moving the camera, Carol, it's better if you put it on another camera. Okay, so here we go. Mask and goggles. I've set my depth. I've set it on the centre. I'm actually going to do it to 19.5 rather than 20. I'd rather go slightly shallower than slightly too deep, and I'll explain why in a minute. So I'm going to do a very shallow cut just to check I'm on the centre line. Of course, they always work better when they're plugged in. What's going on here? It's switched off. Hang on. Too many switches.
Greyheart says he checks at least 15 times usually.
Yeah, we edit that out normally. So how's that look? Looks pretty central to me.
Ooh, yeah. It's like a teardrop, isn't it?
Yeah, so it goes deeper at this end, you'll notice, from the drawing. Let me just go back to the drawing. I made it deeper at this end. It's not quite as deep at this end because I wanted to leave some room for the anchor, and making sure that I'd left my 1/8 of an inch. Hopefully that makes some kind of sense to you. So I'm going to carry on now and continue. Obviously 20mm is way deep, so I'm going to do maybe no more than 2mm at a time, especially because it's maple, which is rock hard. Double check everything. Everything looks pretty good, and so I'm going to go for it. Wish me luck. I'll see you on the other side. Wobble. I've got a wobble there. We'll talk about wobbles in a minute. Well, as you saw, I figured out pretty quickly that that it cut a lot better pulling towards myself than going away from myself. And when I was going away from myself, it tended to want to wobble. So coming towards myself was no problem at all. So yeah, I guess sometimes the tools and the word will tell you which way to go. So I was going the wrong way to start with, found it difficult, but went the other way. It was dead easy. So bear that in mind. As I was saying, I would always, if I was you guys, do a little test on a bit of scrap wood first. Right, and also before you take it off the jig, always worth checking the depth. See, that's about right. Just there, look, just a shade under 20 mil. We'll get it in the close-up, Carl. You don't want to move that camera, because that's all set up. Okay, 20 mil. Just make sure you've checked it before you take the clamps off. So that is part one of that operation. We'll just carefully take these off and then we can reuse them as many times as you like.
So I'm assuming it's 2:30.
Yeah, no, I'm going to carry on.
Okay, well, James and Terry says, don't worry about me, I could watch this all day. It's almost as good as the bandsaw license. It just goes to show you how much time and effort goes into the online courses.
Yes, thank you. So you can see my little wobble there. Now in this case, I'm not even going to worry about it because by the time I've carved my neck, I'm going to be carving that off. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to completely ignore it. It's not on the finished guitar. We'll ignore it. If it was, one thing I could have done is just widen the slot a tiny bit just to clean it up. So that's what I would have done if I needed to fix it. But it's a tiny little wobble, and I don't doubt if you can even probably see it. Yeah, but that'll be carved off by the time you finish the neck, so I'm not even going to worry about it. The next thing to do then is to drill the hole through. So it's 2 stages, big hole first, then the little hole. And the easiest thing to do is to mark on the curve on the side of the neck. So I'm going to do it this way round, I think. Yeah, I'll do it this way round. So I'm going to mark it on this side. Okay, right? So we've got our curve. We know our curve because we've got these curved rods. So I can just draw it on. All we need to know is the depth that we've gone to. Well, we know it's 20 mil here. Here's my depth, look, truss rod, 20 mil. So I'm going to mark that there, down, 20 mil, make a mark. I can do the same at this end, but it won't be 20 mil, it's only actually 13 mil there. So I'll mark that there. And then we know where the curve is, so we can just draw that on, line it up, draw it on. There's our curve. In fact, I'll extend it so it comes out at this end. Here, look. So can you see that on the close-up? Yeah, look at that. Now that line there, it's not the centre. It's the bottom of the slot. So when we drill a hole, we want our hole to be offset. So it's a 5 mil bar. Can you see that?
Yeah.
The 5 mil bar comes out there. So the centre is actually offset by, well, it's 5 mil bar, so it must be 2.5 mil, eh? 2.5 mil. And I've already got my centre marked. there. So I can now mark this line across. And then add 2.5 mil. That's exactly 2.5 mil. So I'm going to punch that.
Do you know the perspective on the camera when it was up?
It's crazy.
Right, well it makes it look off centre, but
Is it?
yeah, it doesn't now, but when it was on its edge it did. You can see it's centre, it's definitely centre.
So punch in there, making sure it's below the centre there. So as you can see, when we drill with the bigger drill, it's actually going to dig in a little bit into that surface. That's normal. The only thing we'll do is we'll put a flag on the drill to set the depth. So if you remember from the drawing, here's our nut coming to there. Nut coming to there. So what I did was I marked the end of the nut and then transferred it onto my piece of wood there. So that's the depth of the nut. And so then what I can do is I can set a flag to get the depth. Hopefully that made some kind of sense. If anything doesn't make sense, by the way, folks, just shout out. So now we need to drill this, the horror hole. We'll do the big one first, because then the small one can centre on the hole that the big one. I'm going to use these. Right, let's do it. What could go wrong, eh? What could possibly go wrong? So I've got my my angle drawn on the side as well. Let me see if we can get a shot of that. How's that look? Can I have camera 4, Carol?
Yeah, it's
Bit what? Can you see the angle here? Which is what I'm interested in. I'm going to try and follow it by eye. Now you could make a, you could of course make a drill guide for this. I'm just going to clamp it so it doesn't move. It's not actually so easy. It's not actually so easy to make a drill guide though. So, I'm just going to show you how we do it by hand. So I'm going to put the point of the drill into there. I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to lower it down until I'm matching the angle that I want. So it's going to be hard to see. This is. What's that look like, Carol? Can you see it?
Can you get in any closer? Because we can see it, but it would be great if you could get in. Yeah, my chair cam is brilliant for that.
That'll have to do, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going for it. adjusting my angle. I think that's about right. I'm also looking right down the centre, trying to get that right as well. Okay, one of the things to watch for is the tape can move, and in my case the tape was actually moving up the drill then. I kind of twigged that was happening, so I stopped. But that's one of the things to watch for. You can drill too deep if you're not careful. I might have gone a little bit over there, but that's fine. Now, this one should pop through then, shouldn't it? And we might need an extension for this. We'll see. Yeah. So I've actually got a longer drill we can use, or we can put this one into an extension. You can buy these extension bits.
I'm on overhead at the moment.
Where's it gone? I was going to get this set up, but the grub screw's broken on it, so I couldn't get it out. If we go for the close-up cam. So this is an extension bit that we could use to extend the length of this drill, but the grub screw's stuck in there, I can't get it out. So I'm going to use this slightly longer 5mm drill that I've got here, which is just a 5mm twist drill with welded onto the end of a 5mm bar, and that's going to self-center on that. Get my angle right. Now in this case I'm better off drilling slightly lower angle than slightly too much angle, because what I don't want to do is leave a step. Let's give it a go. Now if you're only good at archery, that should help. Well, it popped through into something. So let's have a look at that, and we'll see. We'll rate it on a score of 1 to 10, shall we? On accuracy. It's the kind of thing that you get better at with practice. I'm scared to look. Well, it's not too bad.
Put it on overhead.
It's not too bad.
See it on.
I'll get this close-up cam. We need to get some light in there now. It's actually not too bad. Can you see that?
Well, that's good. Can you get it a bit closer? Not the light. The light's okay. It's just the camera needs to be closer.
I've lost my close-up lens.
Because it doesn't.
Can you see it?
Yeah, if you get the camera a little bit closer.
It will go blurry if it goes closer. That's as close as it goes.
Okay. Well,
unless I put this on.
put that on then. Get your head out the way.
Found it.
Beauty.
Can't actually see it, can you?
Yeah, it's a hole. Is there a bit of
I've left a tiny step. It's not ideal. If you do leave a tiny step like that, the easiest thing to do is just to glue a piece of veneer in, just to take up the step, and then it's fixed. Like a 1mm veneer, job done, fixed. You could try running the drill in and out a few times, that might help. But I think for our purposes, it's good enough. It's close enough for rock and roll. Let me see if we can get the truss rod in and I'll show you. You might be able to get more accurate than that if you do a few practices. That is basically it, folks. I'll just clear my bench. And I'll show you
Bruno Universe has just checked in. He said not a bad attempt.
not bad.
I'm laughing. He's
What do we get? Can we have scores out of 10, please? So this here is a fillet,
Right, hold on. Cool.
and I've just made a 1/4 inch piece of wood that fits into the slot.
Can you take the lens off the thing?
Um,
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
1/4 inch piece of wood that fits into the slot, and then I've just used the same curve again to draw on the curve, and then I've cut it on the bandsaw so that it matches. Can you see that? It matches the curve. Again, it doesn't have to be exact.
6 out of 10 boosters.
6, that's way too generous. Too generous. So, truss rod. We're going to put straws on it. So if you imagine, right, when we put the truss rod in and we tighten it up, it's going to try and straighten out. And so on a tiny little level, the truss rod is actually sliding backwards and forwards. It needs to slide in the slot, so that it doesn't bind and get bound up with glue. You don't want to get it covered in glue either. I use straws, so you can get big long straws. In this case, I'm having to cut them shorter straws to fit, but put your straws on, and that will help your truss rod work. You could use heat shrink or something. The wrong way round. So put it through the hole, and then you turn it the right way round and pop it in. And we haven't drilled the hole for this yet, so I need to do that. Need to drill the little hole for the anchor pin. Little hole for this anchor pin here. So let's just do that.
You've got a 5.5 from Matt Toman on a scale of 1 to 10, and like
5.5.
Like a kite says 7 out of 10.
I'll take the 7.
Do you want a couple of questions?
What we could do is put this on and then mark the length like this. I think I'll just hope for the best. I'm going to just hope for the best. What I was saying was we could put this on and then mark the exact length where it comes to and then drill it, but I'm just going to assume that I've got it right and drill the hole. If I haven't got it right and we need to adjust it, then that's what apprentices are for, isn't it?
Lewis is watching.
I'll get Lewis to chop the end off. Sorry, Lewis. So I'm just going to drill a 5mm hole here. I suppose to be on the safe side we should put a flag on, because I don't want to drill out the front. I don't want to drill out the front, do I? Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah. Hold it up to camera full. Oh. Is that alright? Yeah.
I can't see it. Maybe you can.
Just see the round.
I keep losing my close-up lens. There it is. Does that help?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I did leave a tiny step in there. It's not perfect, but it'll still work. As long as it's got enough of a curve on it, it'll still work. So I'm going to put this in upside down, tang facing up, put it through the hole, and that makes it easier to get the nut on. We should be able to get that nut on there. Now, I'm not going to glue this in today because we need to cut the radius first, this bit. Because of the way we're making it, if you think all the way back to eons ago, when I was first doing the drawing, I like to see a little bit of this nut sticking out at the end here. Reason being, look, if you just leave the hole there, it looks untidy. See how the hole looks messy? But if you've got the little bit of metal poking out, it looks a lot neater. So that's how I like to do it. But if we've got this bit of metal sticking out, then we can't cut across there to do this bit here. So we're not going to actually glue the truss rod in today. I would glue the truss rod in after I've cut the shape of the neck out and done this shaping bit here as well. That's when I would glue the truss rod in. But I'll just fit it in for you just to show you that it actually fits. And I can't demonstrate it actually working because the truss rod, it's not designed to bend such a great chunky thick piece of wood. It won't actually work until you've carved your neck. It only works if the neck's thin enough to actually bend. So if you're doing this, don't go tightening your truss rod up super tight to test to see if it works or not until you've finished carving your neck. Okay, so just going to see if we can get that nut on.
We've got a couple of questions.
We'll do some final questions and I think we're pretty much done.
Yeah.
So if you can watch me struggle with this. It can be a bit awkward to put it on for the first time. We'll see. Might need to adjust the length, like I say. I think I'll take a bit of that off.
Rescheduling says he thinks he'll stick with the under fretboard method.
Yes, so yeah, good point. Hopefully you're realising now why I don't advise this as the easiest way to build a guitar. It's certainly not the easiest way, but it is the cheapest. There, it's on.
That's what we did on
Once it's on, then you can usually just turn it the right way and it will just pop in just like that. There we go, it's in, boys. So you might need to do a bit of footering to get it to fit perfectly, but to all intents and purposes we're in there. So if I tighten that up now, then it's solid in the middle there. Solid. So that's actually pushing down in the middle. I'm not going to over tighten it because like I say, it can start breaking through this way. The nut can start breaking its way down this way, and the anchor can start pulling its way this way if you put too much tension on. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that actually. It's come out quite well. 6.5.
Right, you've got 3 questions that you need to answer.
Let me just show you how we do the fillet then. So this just simply glues down on top, but I'm not going to glue it today as I mentioned. But we just round the end off to match the end here. I do that with a flat block like this. Oh, I've pulled the lead out of the camera.
Yeah, camera 2 falls off. I can't see. You have to move
I
it
pulled
over.
the lead out.
Yeah, if you move it over a bit, camera 2 will catch it.
Where?
Yeah, nice and short, and I'll try and zoom in this one.
Unplug it and plug it back in again. So that should be working now. So what I'm going to do is put a little facet on it, on both sides, because like I always say, whenever you're making round bits, you all start with flat bits. So a nice even facet. Is camera 4 working?
Oh, it is back now. Your hand's in the way though a bit. Okay, try it. Back
Little facet. Same on the other side. What I do is I do a little bit and then have a look and make adjustments until I've got 2 reasonably nice even facets. And then it's just a case of rolling it round. Like this. There we go. And so that will fit in there. Just beautiful. It's a bit tight, so probably needs a bit of planing or scraping. Can't leave without fitting it in, can I?
No, you can't.
So, hopefully, guys and girl, that made some kind of sense. And now, you all know how to make a one-piece bolt-on neck. And why you might not want to. That was good, wasn't it? Yeah. Give me my scraper. Use a scraper instead. Bit of wonky grain there. Using a scraper just to take a little bit off. Make it fit.
I've got a few questions.
Brilliant. Shout out your questions then.
Right, so does see when you were drilling the hole, big hole then the little one,
Yes.
right? Rock'n'Roller says, would it help if you did the small hole first? Why
No.
don't you do the small hole?
No, because it's very important. Obviously, it depends on which drills you're using. It depends on which drills you're using, and I would do a test first. But in my case, it's easier to drill with the bigger drill with the point on it, and then the smaller drill follows the point that the big one's left behind. If you did it the other way round, the point of the big drill would rattle around inside the 5mm hole, and you wouldn't get a nice clean result like that.
So does the fillet match the curve?
Yes. Yep. You maybe missed that earlier. What I said was we use the same rail, the same fillet with the curve on it to draw on the curve onto a piece of scrap wood, and then cut it on the bandsaw and fit it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but yes, it does. It is nice to have it to match the curve. Yes.
Okay, one more question about this. Ross earlier on asked, can you put a two-way truss rod in with access via the headstock?
Not in my experience, no. If someone can come up with a way to do that, then by all means let us know. But to my knowledge, it's not so easy.
Alright, so they're wondering whether that was when the sound was on.
Right, okay. So don't get too hung up on the two-way truss rod thing. You don't need a two-way truss rod. As one of my old bosses, Trevor Wilkinson, told me, if you make the neck right in the first place, you shouldn't need a two-way truss rod, because the neck will always bend this way when you're putting the tension in the strings, and then you only need the truss rod just to bend it back. So you should only need it to work one way. Having said that, it is nice, I suppose, to have the two-way as a bit of insurance. But just make sure when you're making your necks that you don't make it with any back bow. It can be perfectly straight or a very slight bit of relief, just like what I was showing you earlier. So the ruler should touch at the ends, and there should be a gap in the middle. And then when you put the strings on, that gap gets bigger, but you can tighten the truss rod to dial it back in. That's what it's all about.
Off again.
Yeah, I keep hitting that camera, don't I?
Right, so that's all the questions that I can tell. There was one really early on, one which is nothing to do with any of this.
Go on then.
Mr. Parsnip Fingers asked.
Good old parsnip fingers.
Yes, he's back in the room. Can you do a spot repair on nitrocellulose? He asked.
Right, spot repair on nitrocellulose. I would. If somebody asked me to do it, I would turn them away, because not easy. Problem is, when you come to polish it, you're polishing old lacquer next to new lacquer, and it's going to always be softer, and you always end up with it not being as flat as you'd like it to be. And you've always got old lacquer next to new lacquer. Doesn't really work very well. So I always say, look, it's a guitar. It's a tool. The guitar isn't the finished article. The finished article is the music. So for me, the odd dent in a guitar or finish, a crack in the finish, I wouldn't even worry about it. Just play the thing. I'm not having much luck with these planes. These need sharpening.
Right, Russ has asked a quick question. He said, do you sell ready-made one-way truss rods? And I said no, we don't at the moment, do we? But
nope. We sell two-way truss rods, which are made for our they're made for our standard course guitars, and they fit just into a straight slot, so it's like about 10 times easier than what I've just shown you today.
Would we? I guess the question is, would we sell a truss rod like we've made today?
I guess so. Depends what the boss says. I'm going to cut it to length.
Well, I'll say yes, Russ.
If it's for Russ, then anything.
You just need to send us a spec. Tell us what you need and we'll talk about. Right, there's one other thing, Mark. Are you nearly done?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get it to fit in blinking hole. Go on.
Which fit, is it?
It's a bit tight, I'm getting there.
Right. Oh, it's just that...
Last questions, I'll get it.
Well, bag press noticed...
That my planes are blunt.
No, parcel noticed...
Ah, yes! Well remembered. How did you see that?
Because the camera was all over the place. Mark.
That was my little surprise for the end,
Right.
and I've forgotten about it.
Well, there we are. So
What with all the chaos. So yes, we've got a secret box to open, and we know that if it's got bag press written on it, that whatever's inside is going to be awesome. Right, that'll do. My plane's cutting a bit deep and it's not very sharp. One more. Come on. A bit shallower would be good. Can't give up on it. Come on.
What are you trying to do, Mark?
Just get it to fit so we can go home.
But how are you doing?
That'll do. That'll do. We're in. Bear in mind, folks, it does get a little bit tighter when you put glue on, so don't force it in, but you can just give it a tap. Another thing you might want to do is measure the depth so that you can mark it on here and make sure that it's gone all the way in. You really want to make sure this fillet has gone right down hard on the metal. There we go. Yeah, I'm sure you'll all make a much better job of it than I did. But there you go, it's in. And then obviously when the glue's dry, then we can just cut off this fillet and plane it flush before we carve the neck. So just remember, I wouldn't glue this in just now because I'm going to cut my neck out, and most importantly we need to cut this radius here. We need to cut this radius here.
Yeah,
oh,
camera's gone again.
It's because I've stretched the wire. We need to cut this radius here before we glue the truss rod in, otherwise we'll be cutting into our truss rod nut.
Right, so there is a question that I've got to ask, right, from James Perry, who started all this off. Right, James Perry says, thanks so much. Lots of questions cleared up. Even more terrified of cutting a lovely neck back now. Good question though. How can you ensure when carving the neck that the stripe stays dead straight?
Because you're going to cut it out. What I would say, look, if you've not done this kind of thing before, is you need to sign up on the course, and I'll show you all the things that you need to know. You're gonna use this kind of pattern to stick on and copy out the shape. So you can see it's marked on. No, you can't. Try a different camera. You can see the shape is marked on the wood. So the skunk stripe's in the centre. It's marked in the centre. So as long as we cut it out in the right place, it's always going to stay in the centre. So it's not the actual carving of the neck where you would get it off centre. It's cutting the neck out, which I would call profiling. That's what we call a profile. So profiling the neck is cutting the neck out, cutting the shape of the neck out. So yeah, as long as you cut it out accurately, then it will stay in the centre. Easy peasy. Right, let's do the box. Magic box from Bag Press. Thanks, Darren. I was saving it till the end, but then the stream went on a bit longer than I was hoping for, so I forgot.
Right, now who's saying, I didn't mean central, I mean not wobbly. This is what James is saying. How do you make it not wobbly?
You mean that little wobble that I had at the start? What I would say is that what I should have done is done a test in a bit of scrap, and then I would have found out that it cuts a lot easier coming towards myself than going away from myself. So to avoid the wobbles, test in scrap first. In my case, my wobble was just in the first top layer, and so I know that that's going to be cut out when I carve the neck, so I'm not worried about it. If you've got a wobble that you are worried about, then head over to the forum, send us pictures, and once we've all stopped laughing, we'll work out how we can help you out. Okay.
You don't laugh at people, do you?
No, we never laugh at people. We feel your pain. We laugh with you. Not at you.
What's in the box, Mark?
I don't know what's in the box, Darren. There's only one person knows. And he's in the comments. What is it?
I think I know. I think it's something we've been waiting for. Something we've wanted for a long time.
More wrapping. So, where else can you get this kind of excitement, eh? Where else on the internet do you get all this danger, excitement?
I hope it's not lentils.
I hope you've all clicked the like button. Look, it's the new patterns. So, as some of you guys know, I've been desperate to try and get. We want to try and help you guys out as much as possible. So patterns is the one thing. You'll see me using a lot of patterns. I use patterns for everything if possible. But it is one of the kind of. It's a bit of a pain to make all the patterns. To be honest, what I say is if you can't make your own patterns, you shouldn't be bothering making your own guitar.
Well, that's a bit cheeky.
But because making your own patterns is good practice. But some people haven't got the time and they'd rather buy the patterns. And the advantage of this is at least you know they're going to be the right shape. They're going to be exactly right. So here's our new patterns. These are going to be, well, these have been CNC'd by Darren, and we're going to be offering these on our shop.
They're master templates, aren't they?
These are our masters, yeah. What I would recommend, you'll see these appearing as soon as we can possibly get them in the shop. They'll be in there. We're going to put the PDFs up as well, so you guys who are members, you're going to get all these for free as PDFs. And if you want to buy it as a pattern, then you'll be able to do that. So they'll be on the shop and you'll be able to download the PDFs for free. But if you want the actual MDF patterns, then you'll be able to buy those as well. Just a time saver, really. Saves you time making your own patterns. And also, what I would recommend is that you take a copy. So, I mean, by all means, use the masters, but I would call it a master, and then make a copy of it and use the copy, and then you've never got to buy the master again, you see. So I think I've just done myself out of a load of business. But
And why would you do that, Mike?
because if you use your master pattern and you have a little slip up with your router, you have a wobble, let's say, then you might damage your master pattern, and then, well, you can repair these. To repair them, I use car body filler to repair it, or super glue and wood dust. But if you take a copy of your master and then just use the copy the copy, then you've always got your master. And then if you do gash up your the one that you're using, you can just throw it away and take another copy. Brilliant. Or like I say, you can repair them with car body filler if you prefer. So here's a full set of templates that Darren's made up for us. We've been making a few suggestions and alterations as we've gone. So
What's the shape?
so this is the bandsman, Bailey bandsman, and we've got neck template. There's a selection of headstock templates actually, and some of the templates have been doubled up, so you've got two templates in one.
There's a bit of drooling going on. Why did you choose the Bailey Bandsman, Mark?
Look at that, for a fit. That's the beauty of CNC, you see. I can't see any air through there at all. Look.
Why did you choose the Bandsman?
So this is what I chose as the basic shape. This is what I think is the easiest shape for you to make. This is for a set neck guitar. If it was a bolt-on guitar, you would need to have a heel, body heel, to bolt the neck onto. So this is what I recommend as your first guitar. The advantage of this is it's a really easy shape to make. It's a nice easy shape, no sharp curves, no pointy bits. I know you all love pointy bits, but guitar makers hate pointy bits because they're harder to make than roundy bits. So yeah, that's why I recommend the Bandsman. That's why I designed the Bandsman, to make it what I think is the easiest possible guitar build. So that's what I've done on the website. Is I'm not recommending that you make a one-piece bolt-on neck, because as you've seen, it's a bit tricky, even for me, and I've done it hundreds of times. I recommend that you make something fairly basic, like this is the set neck Bandsman that we make. Something like this is what I'd recommend, and this is pretty much what we make on the course, except for it's got 2 pickups. You can customize it to your heart's content. Go mad, why not? But once you've got the basic methods under your belt, then you can make any guitars you want. So yeah, what I'd like to do is to show you some of the basic guitar methods, and then once you've got those, then you can design and build your own guitars forevermore. So that's what it's all about. That's what we're all about. If you enjoyed any of today's debacle, then make sure to click the like button, and if you're not already subscribed and all that kind of stuff. Carol's got her hand up, so we've got one more comment before we leave.
It's a good one to on. So you said that the patterns come on PDFs and you get them if you
yes.
Right. And Mr. Parsnip Finger says...
Links in the description for the free ones, by the way.
Parsnip Finger says, can he have a very thick PDF, please?
We've already clogged up the internet. I don't think it could handle a thick PDF. Anyway, there we go. We'll give you a last close-up. Oh, close-up camera's broke. So much for that. Go for this one instead. Carol, we need to press cut.
2. What,
press
number
cut.
3? You were on number 2.
No, you've cut to the slideshow.
Oh.
That was a still image. Right, guys, that's it. We're done. I'm out of here. I'm going for a cup of tea. I think I've earned it. So good luck with all your skunk stripes. I hope they came out better than mine. But this is perfectly workable. There's nothing wrong with that. By the time I've finished that, it will look absolutely perfect and it will work. No problem at all. So although you saw along the way it was a bit of fun, we had a bit of fun, didn't we? It's perfectly fine. I will actually finish this. There's my little wobble. See my little wobble? What's a little wobble between friends? Nothing. This will be carved out. I guess in the worst case scenario we could glue another piece of wood in, or like I say, I could have made my slot a bit wider and that would have fixed it perfectly. Yeah, and my fillet would have fitted, wouldn't it? Maybe I should have done that. Anyway, by the time I've carved it, my wobble will have disappeared. If you subscribe and you keep watching, maybe one day on the channel I'll show you the finished article. Until then, good luck with your guitar builds. Remember, subscribe, like, leave a comment, give me marks out of 10 if you want. And yeah, I'll find some way to get back at you. Remember, check twice, cut once. I'll see you on Saturday for Gluing Revisited. Cheers folks, thank you.